How you doing, sir? How are you?
Hey, what's up, man? Shawn Baker is here. I guess you just say the filmmaker behind Anora, right? Do you? Because you do everything for it, right? You're like the writer, director, producer. Do you like that when people list all the credits for it, or do you just prefer? Would you say I made this movie? Yeah,
It's fine.
I made this movie.
Yeah, no, I do take on probably more roles than most filmmakers.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking to these. I'm not like
these are going to be the roles.
Yeah,
I found my 6 roles that I prefer.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm watching a movie to interview somebody, I typically do the bare minimum. I'll watch a few minutes and I'll just get a flavor for it. But I started your movie and I got like 30 minutes in and I'm like, I can't not watch the whole thing. It was really good. Like,
cool.
I had to watch the entire thing, and man, is she great.
Yeah, Mikey's
Yeah,
wonderful.
she's fucking.
Mikey Madison.
She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Who did she play in that?
Susan Atkins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the Manson girls.
Was that the one he picked up or no?
No. That was the one that he set on fire at the end. Which, by the way,
okay.
Controversial choice for you because she was in Scream and in Once Upon a Time.
Right.
Set on fire in both films.
Yep.
And this is a spoiler to anybody who hasn't seen Anora. You didn't set her on fire.
That's right.
Which is an interesting
That's right.
not to.
But to tell you the
artistic
truth,
choice.
there is a home invasion. And in those
That's
two other
true.
movies, there's sort of home invasion.
Yeah.
Definitely in the first one. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the physicality is there. If you want.
If you want, you don't have to. We're not taking any calls.
Yeah.
Well, it's great seeing you guys.
You
again.
too.
It's
Yeah, you
been
too.
Like 3 years since I was here with Red Rocket.
Red Rocket,
Yeah.
And then before, so how long is it generally? It was Florida Project. How long was it between Florida Project and Red Rocket?
That was 2017 was Florida Project, and Red Rocket was 21, and it was COVID that slowed us all up.
Sure.
When's the last time you heard from Sandy Kane?
What, 3 minutes ago? She texts me all the time. And sometimes it's a little nonsensical. You know?
Sure.
No, but I always return with the text. It might take a few days.
Was she ever considered for the title role in Anora?
No,
Before
but
Mikey?
honestly, no joke. I want to work her into the next film somehow.
Well, I mean,
You
how
should.
great would it have been, by the way, if like when Annie is in the strip club and dealing with all the strip club drama that I think you encapsulated well, because we've had women that have lived that lifestyle in here, and that is 100% a big part of what happens. But how great would it have been if you'd had this aged stripper that was mad at everybody?
The old wise.
Yeah. Lap danceless in the corner.
Yeah.
You got to get Sandy in. But this was really good, man. I was really.
Thanks,
your
man.
movies are so interesting, and they're also different, and you really get into the characters are all very believable. Like they don't do things that you expect a movie to do, which I always like to see because I'm like, that's wow. I thought they were going to do this, but they wound up doing that. Sometimes I like it, and sometimes I don't, but it feels very true.
Yeah, I wanted to set up a lot of stereotypes and then quickly shatter them. You know, having you think that these guys are gangsters when they're actually just like, you know, they're the stateside representatives of this Russian oligarch family. They're just working for them. They just have their daily job of babysitting their son and stuff like that. They're not, so stuff like that throughout the film. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess like getting the imperfections of every human being.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Everybody's flawed. Everybody thinks they know what they're doing, and they're not.
Yeah,
they don't.
There's some very funny moments in it too. Like there was definitely some good
baptism scene.
What was the baptism scene?
You know where he's checking his phone? I mean, I don't want to say
no. I don't remember.
Did you see the film?
I did. But I'm saying
no, Toros, the character of Toros played by my friend.
Oh God, when he walks. Oh yeah, when he's like, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
That was great. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you. I appreciate that you point out the comedy because I've been leaning more into it with each film. And next time I want to go almost full on like John Landis, even, and you and I agree that Used Cars is one of the greatest comedies of all time. That Robert Zemeckis, his film that he did before Back to the Future, is like a full blown comedy.
Yeah,
with Kurt Russell as one of the great comic leads. Yeah, I want to do something like that.
Yeah, it was great. It's a very underrated classic. Frank McRae never got the credit he deserved either, even though he was in 48 Hours. He was in 1948. He never got the love he deserved.
I agree.
When stuff starts getting successful, though? Is there like pressure put on you to make something similar?
No. Well, in this case, no. What I've been seeing online is that maybe I shouldn't do the sex work thing again. Because it's been 5 films now, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, move on. I'm
Do you have
worried.
fascination with sex workers?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I think I do. And it really stemmed from, well, first off, there's just the fascination I think we all have of this livelihood that, has been taboo since the beginning of time, and also has had the stigma applied to it from the beginning of time. And so I think I was going into it just on that very basic, outside point of view fascination. But then when I made Starlet, I got to meet a lot of sex workers and become friends with them and hear tons of stories and realize there's a million stories to be told in that world, and just one led to the next, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure this similar circumstances has happened to people plenty of times. What you're describing, if not the direct exact thing, very similar arcs and ups and downs, I'm sure have happened to people.
No
before.
joke. No, seriously, when we were when a lot of the background actors in the film, in the club scenes, are real dancers. And we had one young woman come up to us and say, this happened to me.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And my family, my fiance's family rejected me because of what I do. And my life, the life that I thought I was going to have just was robbed immediately from me.
So he left her?
Yeah.
He went with the family?
Yeah. Pressure from the family to not marry a sex worker.
Do you think that makes it? Does that put more pressure on you to like tell a story? I don't know if accurately, but at least respectfully, because now you're like going into these people's worlds and telling stories that are actually happening.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. And the balance there is like, how do you tell a story that's entertaining and funny and
Don't ask us.
and yet at the same time, doing enough so that in hindsight you realize this is a serious story that should be taken seriously, and the life and what Annie is going through is actually a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully it's delivered to you in a way that like you can laugh for 2 hours and have a fun ride, but then be thinking about it the next day.
Well, it's very unpredictable. Like that's what got me, was like certain things you expect them to do, they don't do them, and it's like, oh, this, like with movies, there's always a thing, like little things you can count on happening, so you can kind of figure out where it's going. But with this, there was certain things I expected these guys to do that they didn't do, and I'm like, oh, they're just kind of, that's not who that person is. It was really things I kept thinking and expecting didn't happen, which really kind of prevented me from figuring out where it was going. Because usually you can figure out where a movie is going pretty quickly, but I had no idea with this one.
Oh, cool. Well, you always have to keep ahead of the audience, or why make the movie? I mean, you always have to be a little bit ahead, because if the audience is ahead of you, then you failed. And we have that character of Igor, the heavy, that comes into the house halfway through, played by Yor Borisov, who's this amazing Russian actor. And he's actually even, what's weird is that I had to write a character that was more in the dark than the audience.
Right.
The audience actually knows more about what's going on than this character is, and he's like figuring it out. He's trying to get up to speed the entire time. What exactly am I doing here? Why am I trying to hold this girl from leaving? What is her predicament? And that was interesting to write, because that was the first time I was writing a character like that. Yeah.
That didn't know
what
was in your head as you were
exactly.
writing him from your head. That is,
yeah.
That's a wild thing. Yeah, it was great in Anora that like there are at times almost like Fargo levels of buffoonery when it comes to people trying to get done what they're trying to get done.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you put in those snap out of it moments where it takes, like, as the audience, you're like, you remember it's real life for this person that you're watching. When you start to come up with this story, because it weaves in and out of so many different things. Do you have an overarching story in your mind of where you want it to go, and then it just goes different places, or do you have sort of a premise for a character, and then you just see where the journey goes?
No, I always have to figure out like pretty much beginning, middle, and end before even writing it.
Yeah.
To see if it's worth it. Because I don't want to start writing a screenplay and then like 6 months down the line realize I can't finish it. You know, I need to know where it's going. And in this case with Anora, we pretty much figured it out. And right when we figured it out, right when I basically greenlit myself, because I'm independent, I can greenlight myself. We were moving forward with Anora the weekend that Scream came out. And I had already been really intrigued by Mikey Madison from Once Upon a Time. And we were sitting there in the theater watching Scream and saying, she's our Annie. Like, we don't even have to look any further. We're going to call her agent the second we stepped out of the theater. And we did. And we sat down with her, and I pitched her this, and I said, I haven't written the screenplay yet, but I do have this beginning, middle, and end for you. And she was like, she was fascinated, and she was very, you know, she said, yeah, I'm on board. And then I went and wrote the screenplay, and it was really nice to have her in mind, like her face in mind while I was writing this character and this story, you know, already having precast her.
Well, what balls by her to say yes before you've seen the script? Like, you never know what you're going to get when you agree to something, and then what if the script is terrible? So that was really ballsy of her to say yes to it.
And she had to wait like a year, and I was giving her voice text like I give you voice text sometimes, Sam, where it's like just giving an update, and she was like, okay, well, I'm looking forward to it. And then the one day that we had her, we didn't want the script to leak. I was sort of pulling that Tarantino thing where I was like being very protective of it. So we had her come over to our place with her agent and her manager, and they sat down and read it. And I was actually a little worried about that, because the beginning, as you know, the first 45 minutes is really just a look at her sex work life.
Yep.
So the screenplay reads like, they have sex in the shower, period, end of scene. They have sex on the couch, period, end of scene. They have sex on the there's boom, 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 boom. There's like 18 sex scenes in the first 45 minutes of the
She's
film.
like, what were you doing while you were watching Scream?
Exactly. But she was totally down. She was like, yeah, I'm ready to go.
He was great too.
Awesome.
The Russian kid was great.
Oh,
amazing.
God. Mark Edelstein, he's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, he came to the table through Yura, the other Russian. He was like, I worked with this young actor. I think you would love him. He sent me a self-tape from Moscow, reading one of my scenes. He was standing up, looking out of a window, back to the camera, wearing only a beanie and smoking a cigarette. He was nude.
Wow.
And so he performed the scene, and I guess his girlfriend was shooting it or something, and she zoomed in as he turned around, just, you know, timing it perfectly so that he didn't reveal anything. But like, it was the funniest self-tape I've ever received, and it was also so ballsy, and I was just like, you got this kid got the role. I mean, yeah, I couldn't think of anybody else for him. And then, of course, you know, trying to bring these two guys in during the war was tough.
Wow, yeah.
You know, getting them visas and everything like that. And
it was difficult.
It was difficult. It was down to the wire. We were actually had backups just in case.
How long did it? They're both. So they were both in Russia.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to go through the whole process?
Oh, it was you know, months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And Yura Borisov is like their Ryan Gosling over there. So
really?
He's a star.
He's well known.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
He was out here about 7 months earlier, just on a personal visit, right here in Manhattan, and we were like, let's go out to Brighton Beach and just check it out. And as we walked around, he was being recognized by everybody. I think we got Tatiana's restaurant because of him.
Wow.
Yeah, we were sitting down in Tatiana's having a coffee and talking about the film, and people just kept coming up saying, can we get a photo? Can we get a photo? So then that's when we said, oh, by the way, we kind of want to shoot here. It was an easy in.
That's so funny. So, like, Russian people would watch the movie going like, well, that character is going to become something because that guy is too famous to be. Whereas Americans are watching going like, yeah, I don't know who that guy is. This could be just
same with the Armenians. You know, Vache. I don't know if you know him, but you know he's Armenia's #1 comedian.
Really?
Yeah, he's huge.
Is Vache the one?
He plays Garnick in the film, the one who gets kicked in the face.
Yeah.
It makes sense because he's hilarious.
He's very funny in that. Yeah. Very funny.
Yeah. Just understands like the little. So like I think it's interesting the story about Mikey coming on board because I think part of it is your films are so well received now. Especially, and this one, like, it seems like each film you put out gets more and more well received, to the point that, like, now you're getting the Palme d'Or and, like, there's buzz about all these awards. How, for somebody especially like you, who's so independent and hands-on with everything and is making, like, these stories that are stories that you're coming up with, it's one thing to go, I like what I'm doing, I think it's good. To get to a point where now kind of the world around you is going, like, is reaffirming that to you. Is that, like, what kind of a trip is that?
It's trippy.
Yeah.
I'm 8 films in, you know, so I've kind of I like the path I'm on. I like this where I'm at, so I'm not hearing the noise anymore. You know, for a very long time, after every film, you know, the calls would start coming in, and maybe minor offers or at least interest in me doing stuff in the studio system. And there's always that, like, you're almost seduced. Many times I've almost been seduced. And thank God sometimes fate has just gotten in the way. Sometimes COVID got in the way. You know, it's just like there are things that just life just sometimes just kept me on this path. And now that I'm on this path and with the Palme d'Or win, I don't have to hear that noise anymore. I can just say, nope, I'm just going to continue making these types of movies the way I want to make them. You know, if I continue with this streak of mine of not casting A-list box office names, I obviously am capped at a budget level. I probably won't be able to exceed like 8 to 10 million, but hey, whatever. I get to tell the stories I want to tell and the way I want to tell them. You saw the movie. I don't think we would get past day 1 of script notes from a studio or any studio. Also, there's no way in the world.
Is the Vegas scene, was that like a run and gun style? It felt like, I don't know, just watching, it felt like a lot of the scenes were not full of actor extras. Like, it felt like these are real people that just happened to be there as you were shooting.
Yeah, I always try to do that. In Vegas, yeah, that was the end of the shoot. So we were, in a way, celebrating as well. And we just spent 3 days there. The Palms gave us this amazing suite that was like this penthouse suite that that's where we did our wrap party. Right after we wrapped, awesome. We just stayed in that suite and partied till
You did all
dawn.
your Vegas stuff in 3 days?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was scheduled for 5, but, you know, independent film, you run out of time and money.
Sure.
But no, that's ultimately all we needed. And it was yeah, we just, I always tried to use real background as much as possible. You know, when we were shooting there on Fifth Avenue, we have this one shot that was like that classic shot of the two coming down Fifth Avenue on the sidewalk holding hands during this marital bliss montage we have. Yeah, that's just a sea of real people. Yeah.
That have no idea this is happening. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Well, look, I couldn't recommend it more.
I loved it.
Well, thanks, guys.
I went out and see it. Go find a theater that's showing it, because also you still are one of the great people who shoot on 35 millimeter that are shooting on film. Seeing a film shot on film in a movie theater is, believe it or not, still a great experience. So if there are any theaters near you, it's worth looking up. Anora is just like it's just such a great story. It's like it just goes in different directions and then hits you at the end. It's really well done, man.
Thank you.
I'm happy
guys
for
have been
you.
So supportive over the years. I really appreciate it, and it's great to be back.
Yeah.
Great
well, you can obviously come back anytime, but I'm assuming you'll be fairly busy.
I'd like to come back and just talk about other people's movies.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, that would be
Absolutely. We'll go through the works of Sandy Kane.
Yep.